Hey, greetings everyone, and happy Friday night. All right, we had a few technical glitches coming in, but we've worked it out. So welcome to Andromeda 7 Celestial Gateway, your community uh, support group for help, friendship, love, knowledge, and being of value to others. This is an amazing community, by the way, with hearts and compasses turned towards compassion, discernment, and awakening. Okay. It's really great to be sharing this space with all of you tonight. And if you're new to the channel, it's so good to have you with us. And it's Friday night. And if Lori were here, she would say it's time to feed your mind and grow your hearts. Okay. So we're going to miss our producer and hostess tonight, Lori. She's just taking a brief rest over the weekend and needs some downtime. So we're sending her all of our love, affection, and support, and we'll do our best to bring this topic to light. It's something very near and dear to her heart. And if you haven't caught that amazing video she did for the trailer, go ahead and take a look at it, because it's actually a download that Lori got from Spirit and turned it into a beautiful video, which really helps summarize the discussions. So tonight, we're going to take over for her. Sophia has offered to step in as a co-host, and I really appreciate that. And we have with us Dalibor Suki over there in Germany.
Hey,
And we
what's
have
up?
Nick Dawson, Jasmine Barocchio. Hope I'm saying that all right. Welcome to have you back. It's so good to see both of you. It really is. Grandpa Brian Richards is actually on a fishing trip, and he's having a blast, and I think he's eating everything he's catching. So let's see. I also want to give a congratulations and heartfelt thanks to all of the A7 participants and supporters for helping us to join what Lori has coined the 700 Club.
700. I
A7,
remember that show.
A7 style. We're over.
Hmm.
We're about 703 subscribers
Hmm.
now, which is a major accomplishment. It's another milestone for us. She's led us to this point, and she's really driven the focus of these programs over the past year or so. And we're doing very, very well, and we're both very pleased about that. But before we get into a detailed discussion, I'd like to ask Sophia. You're able to see the chat, Sophia? So would you like to do the call outs and welcome the chat room participants?
Right on, right on. Let's do it. Let's do it, kids.
All right.
Friday nights. My laptop was righteously flipping me off, so we are on subroutine. So, gonna do the best I can, like everything else. Start from the top. Deborah Sloan, how's it going? Nice to see you. All right, pure love. Look at you. She's in here, Lori. We love you, man. Hope you get to feeling better.
I think
William
that's
Swan, how
me.
you doing? Good to
Hey,
see
what's up?
you. Let's see. Beloved Abstract. It looks like if there are more people in chat they haven't posted,
Okay. All right.
go ahead and put your comments in there like we have done in previous shows. If you have a question or would like input on something, if you put it in all caps, that'll make it
Yeah.
bubble to the top so we can do what we do best, and that's spread love and acceptance and encouragement. That's why we're here,
Awesome.
kids. So welcome everybody.
Thank you. This is an intriguing topic, isn't it? Freedom from fear.
Oh yeah.
Um, Many say that fear is an inherent component of who we are when we come into the physicality of the separateness of our creation here, so that we can experience fear and all of the emotions that go along with that. Some believe we can and should embrace our fears, as would the masters and great teachers, or embrace fear like they're a master or a great teacher. Let's think about that for a minute. Some should say, feel deeply that we shouldn't seek to evade our fears or run away from fear, or try to find freedom from fear, that it's more about gaining control over it and self mastery of fear and putting it to work for us in other ways. Now, Sophia, you seemed fairly enthusiastic about having this discussion tonight. We have talked about fear before in several different programs and even a show a year ago on fear. Why were you so excited about this, and why do you think it's such a great idea to have this topic?
There we go. Um, why this topic? I would say that when fear, there, in my opinion, there are many types of fear, just like there's many types of trauma, many types of love. The type of fear that I'm excited to discuss has to do with the type of fear that is limiting, that keeps you at home when you feel you should interact with other people, when you're fearing that you're not good enough at something, so you don't even try. That's the kind of fear, that's the rabbit hole that I'm interested in going down. Is there a type of fear that would be best to have a professional help you navigate it? Absolutely. 100%. If you feel you need a professional, I'm 110% behind you because I've been down that road. We weren't
Yeah.
meant to walk this alone. But let's see. The old handy notebook. One of these days I'll evolve, Teresa, I promise. Okay. So, the fear that I would like to talk about, the freedom of fear, is what is limiting us from unfolding and being the best version of ourselves. That's the
Okay.
kind of liberation that I pursued and have reaped benefits from it until I realized that it was a pattern that was occurring. I couldn't address it. And that's exactly why I'm so excited about this topic, is because sometimes it takes a situation like this to be like, is there unaddressed fear? And one of the one things that I used is, fear is false, E is evidence, A is appearing, R is real. So, is there false evidence that appears real? Did I embrace illusions that limited my potential? Yes. Who's the only person that can do anything about it? Me. So I really feel that when I was ready to change, because that's key, you can know you have a limitation, but if you choose not to pursue a different way of approaching or navigating it, and I would say giving yourself permission to at least entertain looking at things differently, because
Mm-hmm.
I really feel that fear occurs as a defense. It's a mechanism, at least for a couple of reasons. Sometimes it's learned behavior. My family always did it this way, so this is why I'm doing it. And then after a while, you may get sick of it, and that's healthy. The other one is, for me, was a negative connection or an experience. When this happened, something negative happened. Well, let's look back, kids. This could be 10, 20 years ago. I'm not the same person that I was back then. So why should
Yeah.
I navigate things in a similar fashion? So giving yourself permission, if it's not like a physical or a mental active threat, has that fear expired, because
Mm-hmm.
I feel that it can and does. Um, and then I would say, let's see here. Da-da-da-da-da-da. I feel that some fear keeps a fair amount of people prisoners within their own minds,
Mm-hmm.
and that we all, you know, allowing ourselves the choice to consider other viewpoints. And I feel that that pulls down strongholds of unhealthy behaviors and thought patterns. And when here, I'll tell just a little bit, and then I'll finish my preamble. Um, when I pursued and was called to Camp Chesterfield, I was not terrified, but I had been in my comfort zone socially for so long.
Mm-hmm.
Spirit felt it necessary to bring a couple people forward to be like, what if that doesn't happen, and being the advocate for me to allow something beautiful to happen. Okay, so what if something good happens, and it has. What wonderful things I would have missed if I would have curled up with that fear of social interaction because I was embracing something that I had outgrown. And with grace and ease, I could not be happier with how things unfolded in that fashion. And then let's see, the last part of this that I felt important for this is let's see, are my reservations, is my fear or reservations, is it serving me? Is it time to allow something new? Is it time for baby steps? And I don't feel we're meant to do it alone. Um, let's see. And then, oh, yeah, here we go. This was cute. Um, am I okay to shine the light of truth on something to see if it appears or seems different than once it did? Um, let's see. As we evolve and change, our perceptions can shift too. It's just having the courage to say, I feel a limitation here and I'm the only one that can do anything about it. And I think fear is the root of a lot of things in that regard. And then here was a couple questions for myself for contemplation. What am I willing to allow that was a limitation before? What is the root and what is the reward? What can I learn? What other doors may open due to small steps in a healthy direction? And is it, let's see, I can't read my own writing. Dang it. Is it as bad as I have convinced myself it to be? So that's the preamble that I came up with.
That's awesome. I love it.
Thanks. Stepping in
Yeah.
Teresa's shoes a little bit there.
Hmm.
But yeah, I love the discussion. I'm gonna go back to chat and take a break here and see what's going on.
Okay. I'm having an echo myself.
It's probably me.
So,
Yeah, I don't hear an echo.
okay. Yeah, it was just, no, I'm still, okay. Let me get out of this. I'll turn that off. How's that? Better?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that was wonderful preamble, and I love every aspect of it because it's spot on with what Lori's intent was. All those things you just mentioned, I can tell you right now. The reason we put this program together and what inspired this program is that we both went through something prior to this full solar eclipse. We were both having experiences separately and then together. And it led us both to having to do some really deep inner self exploration as to why we were thinking, saying, feeling, responding, or why others were thinking, saying, feeling, and responding to certain things. And so we both took a pause. We took a pause during that eclipse and we went into ourself and we had some private discussions with our higher self and our spirit guides. And Lori got an automated writing from it. And that generated the script that she put together for the opening video for the show trailer video. I just don't have the ability to play it myself here tonight. So when you get a chance, if you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to it. I have a small excerpt from that I want to share with you. It's very brief, but it's part of her automatic writing and it's part of her message in the video. So Lori, I hope you don't mind. I'm going to read it. It's in our YouTube description, part of it. Let's see. What is fear? It is an unpleasant, often unwanted, strong emotion caused by anticipation or awareness of danger and accompanied by an increased autonomic activity. Fear of any kind is a belief in something that creates a situation that has not yet manifested. Fear can also be an unwanted invitation for false beliefs to take hold. How do we gain control over our fears? How do we overcome them? These are the questions we ask ourselves during our ascension process of growth and understanding of the self. Incrementally and in various stages, we expand our awareness for a greater ability to connect with the deepest part of ourselves. So that's what inspired her. And we said, this is a show topic, as often is the case. We both learned so much from those experiences those couple weeks that we thought it would be worthwhile sharing. And we bet the panelists have their own experiences to share as well, without getting into too much detail. For me, I think it's important to have this discussion periodically, because as we grow and expand, we're changing. Fear is part of what helps us with that change, because to the extent that we can identify it, see it, and are aware of it, maybe not always 100% up front, but can at least understand that it's part of our inherent nature, part of our reason for being here, then we can sit back objectively and learn from it in such a way that we can change and transform the way we think about things more readily, more easily perhaps, and even in constructive ways that are shining examples to those we interact with that are also going through their own cycles and their own repeated patterns. We can at least recognize it in them so that we can step back and say, ooh, I'm not making this part of my energy, or we can accept it and help them to realize it, see it, and experience it for themselves. Although that's not our responsibility, it certainly is when we're close to people and have relationships with people. We want to understand them, we want to relate to them, and at the very least not run from them, and take control over it and step into it. So I think it's an important topic, and I'm glad we're having it tonight. With that being said, Lori outlined 3 specific questions for the panel that she would like to have answered. The first being, do you recognize the emotion of fear when you're experiencing it? Number 2, do you feed into fear? Do you feed into your fear, or do you embrace it? How do you cope with your fear is her third question. How do you cope with fear? And by having this discussion tonight, it might be an inspiration to others who are thinking through these things as well. Welcome Dolly Balfour, and Joe Sapiens has joined the chat as well. Good to see you guys. Okay, so we're going to start, I think, with Dalibor. We'll work our way around to Sophia, and we'll come back around, okay? So Dalibor, do you recognize the emotion of fear when you are experiencing it?
Oh yeah. Big time, yeah. Except that, I don't think it's an unhealthy emotion at all. I think it's perfectly healthy. I think we were designed with fear as a defense mechanism. Mm-hmm. And the only way that it becomes negative is when it becomes an issue, when it becomes something that triggers a different mental outcome than you would desire, right? When it starts limiting you in a major way, whether it's directly through the fear itself or through some kind of coping mechanism that you adopt in coping with fear. And the most common coping mechanism in society would be alcohol. And I quit alcohol in end of 2016, beginning of 2017, because through self-analysis, I came to the conclusion that I was basically experiencing a fear of life. And what was that replaced with? A fear of death. Because objectively speaking, even a tiny drop of alcohol, even if you have a tiny drop of alcohol once a week or whatever, it still affects you negatively. It will still cut down on your life expectancy, and it damages every single cell in your body because it gets inside every single cell in your body. And not only is it toxic in and of itself, but so are its metabolites, its waste products. So it in other words, it damages your body on the way in and on the way out. I won't get into the technical details, but in my case, like I said, it was a fear of life, of fear of emotion, right? And by giving that up, I discovered that nothing really changed. I had great expectations that I was going to I figured I was such a successful person before while I was drinking. I'm going to be even more successful now. No, that's not really true
Didn't work,
because
did
yeah,
it?
because I also hit my 50s, right? So my productivity went down, and it wasn't all that it was cut out to be. But I know for a
Mm-hmm.
fact that I extended my life and my well-being,
Uh-huh.
and you know, I never really had a need for alcohol to begin with because I never had social anxiety.
Sure, sure.
I For me, it was literally what I said. It was a fear of life.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Where as you move past that marker of 50 years of age, that gets taken over by a fear of death, right?
I'm just curious, when did you come into that realization that you had that kind of fear? You didn't have it
Because,
when you were going through it. When did you awaken to it?
well, self-analysis. I kept analyzing, like, okay, why do I drink? I drink to get this, this, and this because it's always a trade-off. It doesn't just take from you. It also gives you something. One of the things
Yeah.
that it provides you is it's reliable. It does the same thing every time, no matter when you take the alcohol. It has the same effect. It never rejects you, right? Treats you the same way each and every time. So and by analyzing the emotions I got
Mm-hmm.
from the analysis itself, like what set me off, like okay, I was drinking to experience life less because I was under the impression that most of it was negative, right? Because I saw what other people, my peers, were doing. My peers were falling in love, getting married, and getting divorced. Right? I never did any of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So I pretty much stayed in a steady state. I was basically able to go through life without that major trauma, which divorce really is, uh, because of the fact that I never got married.
Mm-hmm.
And the main reason I never got married is because I was always drunk, and I figured, okay, if I can only enjoy this person when I'm drunk, then I don't really enjoy them at all, right? Because if I
Yeah,
need
yeah.
need alcohol to enjoy something, then that means I don't really enjoy it. But I only enjoy it with this crutch.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the things that made me give it up. And of course, within the first week of giving it up, you are kind of edgy, and paranoid. And paranoia, of
Right,
course, is a type of fear. So
right, right. Yes, it is. Yep, absolutely. Hi, Lady
yeah,
Spitfire. Good to see you.
and just
Go
like fear
Sopian.
itself, paranoia is good. It's just that you can't overdo it. You have to analyze everything in the light of rationality and
Right, right.
statistics. If you're afraid of stepping on cracks in the sidewalk, well, that shouldn't be a major fear of yours, but instead you should be afraid of dumping lit cigarettes down manhole covers because
Mm-hmm.
occasionally there's gas buildup underneath it, and occasionally it does happen that one of those will explode. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's a more rational fear than stepping on cracks in the sidewalk or whatever irrational fears that people have. And usually,
Mm-hmm.
your environment will alert you to something that's an irrational fear.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's usually the best litmus test there is of an irrational fear. Usually, people who have these don't identify them in and of themselves.
Right, right. Yeah. Interesting. Thank you, Dalibor.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
that's a lot to learn, and we all learn from this, and I think there's
hmm
it's on purpose. I really do.
Yeah, because
Nick,
this
what do
is
you?
this is this is real life. This is my real life experience.
That's right. That's right. So, Nick, do you recognize the emotion of fear when you're experiencing it, or is it something you usually find out later?
So there I was in my Major Arcana Hermit arc when I was studying how emotions are applied to alchemy, which they are. They are a type of materia. They're not physical, but if each part of the Holy Trinity is connected to the same whole, that means you can apply it to all of it. So if
Mm-hmm.
I can make red and green, I can if I can use red and blue to make purple, I can use 2 different emotions to make a new one. So when I was studying that stuff, I did start recognizing what fear really felt like. And for me, it feels like a sudden panic that spirals down deeper in degree. That's how it works.
Okay.
So
So that's when you know you're going through or about ready to go through. You get that gut feeling in the pit in your stomach, and you
yeah,
go, "Oh, this is fear."
yeah. Well, yeah, like during that whole process, I decided to let go of everything. So everything became uncertain. I let go of my house. I let go of my car. I let go. My cat died the same time. My girlfriend
Ooh.
at the time cheated on me at the same time. My grandma passed away all at the same time. Then my aunt stole like $1,500 from me. It was just back and forth, back to back, like setback after setback. So I got acquainted really quick on what it feels like to lose everything all at once, and then the spiral that happens. So I decided to realizing that oh, and I also got fired in my job. Well, I resigned because I was tired of them, but still, yeah, a bunch of setbacks that for a normal person they'd be like, oh my god, how do I get out of this? So I decided to take that time to party a little bit and discover myself instead of just going back into the 9 to 5 and like an automaton.
Right. Right.
And so when I discovered that stuff, that was basically one of the key components that I figured out how to manifest. All emotions can be used as a tool, and all emotions are the fuel source to manifest. You just got to know how to direct them. So any alchemist worth their salt has mastered their emotions and can express them while still being in control. And it can do a bunch of stuff. It can convey messages through communication. Emotions are very expressive through communication. It can win arguments sometimes. Like I think it was Plato. Whenever someone would rebuttal him, sometimes he wouldn't make an illogical comeback. He would just stand up, flex, and be like, "Your argument's invalid." Apparently, he was a gold Olympic medalist, and he would use that to his advantage to get a type of an intimidation going on, which can put emotions into other people. It can be used so that's how I see them now. I see them as tools, and none of them are bad. You have to sit there and go, well, if I'm feeling this, that means it's part of being human. And then once you come to that realization, you realize that there's some normalcy to it. You're not crazy. You're just having a human experience.
You know, to the degree that you can do that with other things besides just fear, to the degree that you can look at every situation as something most likely positive as opposed to most likely negative, that I think is the key to shifting your vibrations.
And it's also interesting what you say about it being a human emotion, because you can't blackmail an animal, right? And you can't really threaten an animal, right? Animals only respond to immediate danger, not necessarily to the threat of a danger.
Right.
So when I don't want to use fear in my concoction of spells or whatever I'm doing, because that's not the message that I want to get across. I want to get something more uplifting or get my head out of that profane mindset. There's a quote by John Wayne. It's a common quote. I just like the John Wayne version because Cowboys. But he says it like this. He says, "Courage is being scared to death, but saddling up anyways." Courage is the transmutation positive side of fear. It's okay to have fear.
I like that.
And let it control you. And that's when it transmutes into courage. And then all of a sudden you're in a different mindset. You're in a different emotion. Bam, you're doing it. You're doing it. Good job. Yeah. You're doing the thing that you thought you couldn't do. And then Carl Jung says usually the most growth happens on whatever objective that scares you the most. Like for me, it was for water. I've drowned almost a half dozen times in my life. And my Kentucky trip, I freaking cannonballed into the lake. I had a life vest on, but still, it's a touchy subject for me. On top of that, I did
deep dive.
On top of that, I drove a platoon boat and a jet ski. So like I felt great afterwards. Like all of a sudden, I'm not as scared of water anymore. When I went to California and I saw the ocean for the first time, I didn't freak out. I was actually chilled. I was playing with the little sand crabs. It was a good time. Stuff
I
like
know
that.
exactly what you mean because I got over the fear of flying
Mm-hmm.
by taking hot air balloon rides first.
Yep.
Then I jumped out of a freaking no. Then I took flying lessons, like 4 of them, out of Annapolis, Maryland, and then I jumped out of an airplane with a guy holding me with a parachute.
Oh
Then
wow.
I did the same thing by joining hands and skydiving.
Yep.
So
And,
after that, I didn't drink anymore when I got on a plane, and I didn't have to worry about flying. I got over my fear. I just
yep.
faced everything head on and tried everything I could that was the opposite of what I was feeling.
And if you would have let your
So
emotion control you instead of the other way around, you would never got those cool experiences.
never. Oh
So
no, I would have get drunk before you put me on a plane. Seriously, I did.
instead of living
So
life, you would be poisoning yourself.
that's right. So Jasmine, do you always recognize fear when you're experiencing it?
Fear takes on a lot of faces for me.
Uh
Sometimes
huh.
it's stress, sometimes it's worry. But what I've been learning through this journey is that um, emotions are all there to help you. There might be negative and positive ones, but even the negative ones have a message and they will persist and keep coming up if you continue to ignore them. You have to give them the time. Don't wallow in it. Don't let them consume you. But you still have to listen to the wisdom that each one of them has. So with fear, one time I had a meditation, and I had him like sitting close to like on like by my third eye, and I kept figuring out. I kept asking like, "Who is this? Who is this?" And then he says, "I come to help people, but they never let me go." And I
Mm hmm. Mm hmm.
what? And then I was like, "What? Who are you?" And he's like, "I am fear." And I was like, well, that was pretty crazy because it's so true. Because like he comes to help people, to help them say, "Hey, look, there's a danger there. Be careful of that," but not
Yeah.
necessarily to stay. And he's like, and people just won't let me go. And it's like that to me that just spoke a lot of volumes because before when I was a kid, um, I would face fear. In psychology, we call it as a counterphobic 6 in the Enneagram. So basically, anything that shows you fear, you do it because it's fear. So
Mm hmm. Mm hmm.
if I was scared to ride a roller coaster, I would force myself to ride the roller coaster because it scared me, and I knew that anything that scared me was going to have power over me. So I would just do it on purpose because it scared me. But then as I got older, I started realizing that it's like either you go with the current or you fight the current, but either way your life is revolved around that current. I didn't want anything dictating my life either. So then I started, like Sophia was saying, like growing. So then the way I dealt with fear also had to grow. So then now it's become more of like, instead of being worry or consumed by fear, now it's turned into wary, which there is a difference. Wary
Yeah.
is just being aware that there are dangers. So, you lock your doors at night, you lock your car, but you're not consumed with the idea that, oh my God, someone's going to break in or blah, 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 blah. Like you don't entertain the next thoughts that follow. You just, hey, that's true. It's a dangerous world. I'm gonna lock the doors. But that's as far as that's as far as that vibration goes, if that makes sense.
Right. Well,
Mhm.
there's natural, instinctual responses to certain types of fear that are, I think, deliberately there to out of self-preservation,
Yeah.
survival instinct. So there are, I think it was Ram Dass who said, and I kind of concur with this. He's one of those who believes that fear is inherent in our creation of the human side, because as having been animals before, having
Mhm.
incarnated previously our souls into different life forms, we learned all these different instinctual fears. But he thinks it's part of the construct of the human to have the fear when we come into separateness, into the physical reality, so that we have checks and balances. And so that would describe perfectly what he was saying. in that it's not always just a learned behavior that we learn as we grow. We learn about how to fear certain things, but that we have a natural instinctive fear built in. It's
Right.
like the
Yeah,
ego. You can't do one without the other. It's not a parasite, it's a teacher.
Right.
yeah, and when you do have that instinctual fear that comes up for no reason, seemingly no reason, out of the blue, that's usually a psychic impulse based on retrocausality that could be a trigger to pay attention and to perhaps cancel what you're doing or not engage in that activity or not
Mm-hmm.
engage with that person, because in a lot of they did research on all these like fatal plane crashes, and in a lot of these instances these planes were like underpopulated,
Yeah.
statistically, which is statistically like impossible. And they discovered when they interviewed the people that canceled, a lot of them said like they the last minute before the flight they had like a really bad feeling about the flight, and they
Mm-hmm.
decided to just cancel. So in other words, if you do get an impulse like that, don't disregard that. It's there for a reason.
Right.
Right, right. Yep.
So I do think it's part of the human experience to have fear, but I also don't think that it's not something that should be consumed. Which brings into like what you were saying, Teresa. It reminded me of another scientific study of like people that are born without pain. Like if you
Yes.
don't have physical pain, the likelihood of you surviving is very low because the whole reason why pain exists is to communicate that there is a problem that needs attention. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's just we've been taught as a society that emotions are bad or that emotions are weak, especially like as a female frame. They always say like, "Oh, look at her, she's PMSing. Oh, she's not thinking in her right mind. Oh,
Oh
her
yeah.
emotions getting to her." Blah blah blah. You know, so
Yeah.
it doesn't really paint a good picture to have emotions. And as I've been learning and starting this journey, they're so cool and like it brings color and flavor to life. Imagine if it was, if you won't really appreciate all the good times unless you have the bad times. And Nick will probably tell you that that's a hermetic principle that, you know,
Yeah.
the pendulum swings back and forth and, you have
Yeah.
to. So there was a quote that I also read that says, you have two choices: change and evolve or stay the same. And to
There
me,
you
it's like,
go.
I, you have to
There you
choose
go.
adventure.
Yeah. There's a quote here. This is perfect. Um, let's see. This is perfect. Uh, shoot. Some fear will become so great that it will force you to waken to that fact consciously and bring it into your consciousness. You will have these beliefs unconsciously, but they'll be brought into the conscious, and when they bubble up to the surface, and Lori talks about this too, you will find them, change them, and then in so doing, transform your fear into joy.
Mhm.
So, as Nick was saying, emotions are a different kind of guide, and that they're part of your team and they help you recognize concepts, situations, and so on. That's what fear does, and all the emotions that are attached to fear. And another thing that he said down here concurs with what you just said. Just like any positive one stems from love, both have their uses and wouldn't exist without the other. Um, it's your choice, however, how you want your scales to tip. So he's pretty much backing up what you were just saying. It comes down to making a choice.
Yep.
And to me, it's how you view it.
Yep.
And I used to view fear as something awful, like an emotion. And just like I said, death to ego, death to fear. Well, now I've completely flipped. I've done a 180 on that. And I see them and embrace them as spirit guides.
What you really should be saying is death to anger and death to hatred.
Yes.
That's what
Yeah.
you should be saying death
Yeah.
to, but not the other emotions, because all of them are pretty much
Yeah.
useful.
Well, anger is useful too. Anger is supposed to give you
Agreed.
energy to create change. Um,
Ooh. Yeah.
but hate, I can't really find a good one for hate though.
Hmm.
Anger
Well, the
Yeah.
lit.
BA, I love this BA. Instead of
Anger.
putting attention on the objects of fear, put attention on who is fearful.
So anger has a lot of recoil. Like anyone in the metaphysical will tell you that anger literally kills you. But it does have its uses. It literally was the ignition for my upstart. Like I just got tired of like what I was going through in life, and
Mm-hmm.
I started going through the causes of it, and some of it were like family members and like people I'm close to and stuff like that, and it made me very angry. I was like, you
Yeah.
know what? They have no right to assume what I am. I'm about to make the haters regret thinking that I'm nothing. And then so I must have
But
said,
that to me, that sounds more like a case of boredom being the impetus for change rather than anger.
Yeah. 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 Could be.
yeah,
But you
I would
see
agree with
now.
you, but I definitely felt anger through
Yeah.
the entire
Well, I'm
process.
sure. Yeah.
I
I
Hmm.
think what
feel I
BA.
feel that anger is moving passion into severity. Because
Mm,
if you didn't care about it, it wouldn't affect you that
yeah,
way. So I feel anger can be healthy as long as it's expressed in a progressive fashion. When the anger turns in on the self is when you get into, at least for me and how I'm wired, anger expressed can be powerful as long as it is bridled in a healthy context.
yeah,
Mm-hmm. How
and in
about this?
moderation,
How
because
about this, Sophia? What BA is saying here: fear is always under anger. Do you agree?
Yes, I do. Can I answer that question? Because I'm kind of chomping at the bit over
Yes.
here.
Yes.
Okay. So, do you recognize the emotion of fear when you're experiencing it? Yes. Finally. Having a compromised childhood, there was a lot of fear involved. But yes, I do now recognize it and I use it kind of as a bearing, like different extreme and intense emotions, because I feel fear and anger are very, if I'm going to feel it, it's usually very intense. So now when I feel that, I ask myself, what am I feeling and why? Why
Mm-hmm.
am I
Mm-hmm.
feeling this? I'm not going
Mm-hmm.
to roll around in it, like a dog in fresh cut grass. Come on, man. Bull crap. I got other things to do. So what am I feeling and why? Where's the truth? Because a lot of what I stand for as a person has to come with the truth. And if something is having like a negative feedback, there's generally deception, lies, an unbalanced ego, something is triggering me. Kind of like Jasmine said earlier, if you're feeling it, it's good, but not fixating on it, because I'm good at that too. And then
Mm-hmm.
generally when I experience that emotion, it's like, what is the lesson, or who is compromising one of my boundaries?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm comfortable and healthy, that's my responsibility, maintaining those boundaries and my values and making sure the people I'm around hold those, respect, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then for a long time, until I was in my 20s, I think, fear held a trump card in my life. And fear and anger were frickin' frack in my world. So
Yeah.
I removed that trump card out of that emotion, you know. And then for me, when I feel fear, which doesn't happen very often anymore, but when I do feel it, for me, it signals that something's out of balance, that there is a lack of harmony. And most of the time, I'm trying to attach myself to the outcome of the situation, or like control something. And, oh, what if it doesn't go that well? What if something cooler happens? Stop it,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Hmm.
And then I just have to back up, observe the emotion, not become encompassed and hopelessly crippled by it, but do my part, keep it simple, stick to the truth, and just sometimes when I feel it, I have to back up and observe it. So that's what I do when I experience it now versus what I used to do then, which was alcohol, like Delabore said. You know, if I felt something I didn't like, hey, it's legal, at least it is now, you know.
Sure.
And it's just like, maybe it's a good thing I'm feeling that. Who am I to turn it off? So
Hmm.
that's what I got on that right now.
Yeah,
Well,
and
thank you.
sometimes a lot of these irrational fears that take over your life are actually based on something real that happened in your life. Like a great example of that would be when we had to start wearing the masks during the pandemic. And
Mhm.
I discovered that I just couldn't do it. I couldn't. I developed like a fear of wearing the mask because I couldn't breathe. And I told my parents about it, and my parents were like, "Well, we never told you this, but when you were 3 months old, you almost suffocated under a thick blanket that we had for you because it was a cold night, and they didn't have really good heat in that apartment that we were living in Austria." And my parents were watching the movie Kelly's Gold. And during one of the commercial breaks, my father had like this instinctive fear. He's like, I gotta go check on the kid. And he went to check up on me, and I was like all blue, barely breathing, and stuck underneath this pillow, this quilt. And so what they did was they got rid of it. They got rid of that quilt, and I no longer had any problems. But that stayed with me, apparently. That fear of suffocation.
Yeah. Yeah. You'll find that most of these types of fear, or most of these emotions like anger, anxiety, depression, even certain behaviors like overeating or making yourself throw up. What is that sickness that people have where they
Bulimia.
eat? Bulimia. You'll find that just about any one of these has an underlying
Yeah,
underpinning of fear of something.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
So for
And it,
me,
it might not even necessarily be something that happened to you in childhood. It could be something that happened in a previous life, a
yes,
previous
it could, and
incarnation.
it's bleeding over into this
It's
reality.
bleeding over.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely, it's stuff you've stacked on and didn't clear that karma before, and you recycled. It's a part of your lesson here in this lifetime is to maybe overcome it. And
Yeah.
fear is a good way. It's like a candlestick. It's like a tuning fork.
Hmm.
What I went through a couple weeks ago, or right before the eclipse, was just being my normal true self, doing my thing, reaching out, saying, "Hey, I want to discuss this because I'm one of these people that organizes, and I'm always trying to find ways to put things into motion because that's what I do." And uh, but I felt compelled, and my emotions were a little off, so I was out of tune. What the balance wasn't right. Things weren't feeling right. Even Lori was saying things aren't feeling right.
Well,
And so we recognize.
did the eclipse trigger any type of fear in
It
you?
might very well have. I have no way of knowing that for sure, but I feel that
Hmm.
that's probably part of it. But then again, no, because what I was just getting ready to say about the layers, it's the things that are hidden. See, the things that I fear are not so much about the bumblebee stinging me or sticking my finger in a flame or picking up a loaded a weapon and not knowing if it's loaded or not. Normal, instinctual, or even phobias. You know,
Hmm.
the kind of fear that I'm experiencing is fear that I don't recognize, and I don't see it, and I don't know it's there until something goes down. And then I question, why did that feel off to me?
Hmm.
What's not feeling? Is this ego? Maybe a little bit, but no, that's not it. Well,
Yeah, but
then I'll go to my guide, and my guides are asking me questions, and they're saying, "Well, what made you feel that way?" Well, I don't know. Yes, you do. You know.
yeah.
Remember back when, and they'll take me back to a situation when I was young, of how I felt. In this case, it was rejection, or not being accepted, or not being needed. I have a need to be needed. I really do, and I also have a need to be accepted, wanted. Okay.
But when you,
It's very strong in me, and I didn't realize that it had associated with it certain behavior patterns that I've established all my life that I thought this is my true authentic self. But it was a liar. Fear was underneath of it, and fear was making me believe things like things that haven't yet manifested. That's where Lori got that. We believe in something is going to happen before it even happens, because it's instilled within us, and it's down underneath of all these layers. So I don't always recognize fear when I'm experiencing it until I go, ooh, I'm more in tune now. My fret is off. My guitar needs tuning. My piano needs tuning. It's off key. Then I can confront it and face it and realize it's fear-based, right? Does that sound...
See, that sounds perfectly true, except that in my case, it's the opposite. It's the exact opposite, where I will, for whatever anomalous reason, lose my fear or have no fear in a situation where normally, if I'm thinking about it here, sitting in my room, thinking about it, I would never do something like that, but I did, right? Yeah. And the perfect example of this would be me and my girlfriend were on vacation, and we were in northern Moravia. We were going to tour this castle, and we were waiting in line, and it was taking forever, and I was bored. And you have the stone wall of the castle, right? And inside this stone wall there was a hole, a small hole like this big, and so I stuck my hand in it. And I wound up sticking my hand in like all the way up to here, and it went around the corner, and in there I felt something, so I pulled it out, and it was an unopened bottle of vodka wrapped in a porno magazine. And I'm like, I'm keeping it. I'm keeping it.
Wrapped in a porno magazine.
I don't know who could have left that there.
I wouldn't know, but okay.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm keeping it, and she's like, no, you're not. At least not the magazine. So I put the magazine back.
Talk about a glory hole. Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. But now that I think about it, I'm like, oh my God, what if there was like some kind of booby trap in there that would have cut my finger off? Or what if there was a scorpion in there? Or...
Well, okay, so I would take it then from what you all are saying is you have found a way to not feed into your fears. You found a way to recognize them, and you're not feeding into them. So that means to me that you must be acting on them in a positive way. How do you cope with fear, and do you use it for your expansion? How do you use fear to shift your energy?
Well, it doesn't dominate my life. I'm not focusing on it. I'm not focusing on it because fear is generally something, an emotion that most people would hate, right? And even in the Bible it says, love your enemies, right? It doesn't say hate your enemies. It says love them. How do you love your enemies? By putting as much distance as you can between yourself and that which you hate. By not coming into contact with it, right? Yeah, that's the real meaning of that, at least to me. So if you're thinking about any situation logically, always look at the statistics. Like, what are the chances of you being attacked by like a chainsaw wielding psychopath at 3 a.m, sitting in your living room? Very low. So there's no reason to feel any kind of emotion of fear based around something like that. You have a greater chance. You have a greater chance of stubbing your toe on the way to the bathroom. And that toe could become gangrenous, right? If you don't take care of it, and the outcome could be a lot worse.
Charles, I'm not sure what this was in reference to, but he said finding treasures. Now, Charles,
yeah, that's what I was doing. Yeah.
That's what you were
probably
doing.
The vodka. I mean, that's a treasure.
Yeah.
Somebody asked how old that magazine was, Delabor. How old was that magazine?
It was brand new. It was brand new.
What year was this?
This would have been 1992.
Brand new in 92. Excellent.
Yeah.
It's funny you were talking about finding treasures, because that's what I was getting at, is that you guys are going to think this is a little off. But once you do dig down deep and you go within and things start foaming up and bubbling up to the surface, That's what Lori calls the cream on top. Because what you've done is you've exposed the truth behind all those underlying pent up things you weren't aware of. It bubbles to the surface, and all of a sudden you're aware of it, and it's like finding a treasure. Because it
Yeah.
enables you to take action. It enables you to move into the mode of operation or process of transformation. So you can actually, we're forever changing. Fear is the catalyst that's often behind the things we're changing. We don't realize it until we've gone through the change.
Hmm.
But without fear, without a healthy fear underlying it, we might not get that treasure. And so to me, it's like adding to your toolbox or your treasure chest,
Hmm.
having that information available to you. Anyway, where do we leave off? Nick, did we get to you about that? So how do you flip it around? Do you turn it into a positive, or do you feed into your fear sometimes? Or?
It depends on the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes fear is a good like alert tool. Like if you get in tune with it and not letting control you and not spiral with it, you can
Mm-hmm.
get really good at understanding the atmosphere of your surroundings. Just for an example, like you're going into this area, and all of a sudden, the tune of that area shifts drastically compared to the tune that you were at just 2 minutes ago. Certain things like the area will get silent, or people will get silent, or you'll get this eerie sensation. There's like examples like that. Like, you're not crazy. That is your intuition telling you, hey, something's up. Get out of Dodge. If you didn't have fear, you wouldn't get out of Dodge. You'd walk right into it and then get impaled by something or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that sometimes people go through things that are so tragic, and you look at it and you go, oh my God, that could have been me.
Yeah.
And you feel really bad for that person, but you've also learned from that experience too.
Yep.
Yeah. You
And
can learn from other people's experiences. Yeah.
Yep.
I just wanted to briefly
Mm.
respond to a couple comments Dolly has been making
Okay.
about narcissists. Avoid narcissists at all costs. Don't direct your anger to a narcissist. You'll get it back sevenfold. This is true. I have lived with one. And I have had experiences with narcissists before. It's no fun. But I will tell you this. I have been through some fearful situations with one in particular. And but that fear and that situation, as horrible as it was, caused me to do a 180-degree turnabout in how I respond to, act, and interact with, or avoid, or not totally avoid, but face it head on. Because in some situations, you can't remove yourself right away. In some situations, you have to ease out of it, break the ties, and so forth. But I will tell you what I learned from it, of this one situation, Dolly. As much as I hate to admit it, sometimes a narcissist, just like anybody else, we're all reflections on one another, right? So sometimes the narcissist is the one that has the fear. And sometimes it's the narcissist that's projecting that fear onto others in a way of using them as scapegoats instead of dealing with their own issues and who they are. Doesn't change the fact that they make us feel crappy. Doesn't change the fact that it's not pleasant to live with. But what it does change for me is it gives me an understanding and a compassion without an attachment. It enables me to establish boundaries and manage that situation more proactively and in a healthier way until I can completely extract myself from the situation. So what I would say about narcissism is it's one of those little unknown safety valves, because our higher self, our higher consciousness, our higher mind is telling us this is not something that's good for us. It's reflecting to us something that's down deep maybe some issues we have within our own selves that's being reflected back, maybe even that we can work on. But more importantly, it's showing me the way out. So without having that relationship or having gone through that with the narcissist, I might not know how to handle the next one that comes along. Or, you know what I'm saying? So look at it as a momentary positive piece of data that you can put into your toolkit for moving forward. But I would agree with you. Most of those kinds of relationships are not healthy for your
No.
personal growth and development and for your greater good. So it takes
And
good self love and self care to admit that you have to break something off with someone who's a narcissist. You really do. Go ahead,
and
Delbert.
the general rule of thumb with narcissists is whatever they're accusing you of, they're doing 10 times more.
Yeah,
Always that way.
probably.
Always, always.
Yeah,
And they're only using you so they can feel better, so they can blame all their problems onto you, right?
right,
Look what
right.
you made me do. Look what I did this for you, and this was the outcome, and it was horrible. You know, bullshit.
Copious
Yeah.
bullshit. Tell it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep, lucky people come into your life to help teach you lessons. Absolutely,
Hmm.
lucky.
Mhm.
Everybody has a, and if you can't love yourself, how can anyone else love you? Amen,
True.
brother. Amen. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that in because there is a great deal of fear attached in the narcissistic cycle, not only for the narcissist but for you as well and other people that are affected by it, including family members and so I wanted to make sure we address that. It's getting close to well, we have reached an hour, but I wanted to get to Jasmine. How about you? Do you face your fears head on, or do you feed into your fears? I bet you face them head on, don't you?
I didn't get to finish my thought.
Oh, I'm sorry, Nick. I thought you did. I apologize. I
um,
didn't. I'm so sorry.
I got to finish the first half. The second half is, and then there's other times, so it's helpful because I'm a number 4, so I'm good at planning, and
Sure.
and and that mixed with my one of my metaphysical abilities of inner knowing, I can do it in real time. So when I'm starting to feel that, sometimes I can like very quickly assess like, am I tripping or is this needed? So like I'm getting mushy because I like claiming her on live. But for an example, whenever I get in an argument with her, and if it gets too bad, sometimes I'm just like, crap, I don't want to lose her. Am I going to lose her? I love her. I don't want to lose her. And like,
Uh-huh.
and then I think to I take a breath. I'm just like, I'm tripping. All I gotta do is come to a conclusion, a compromise, show her how much I love her, and it'll all be okay. And that's what happens. Instead of hitting the freaking emergency button, abort button, whatever you want to call it, and then just exploding and making it 10 times worse when it didn't need to be. It didn't need to be. That's letting the fear control you, instead of letting you control it.
Yes, it's letting you it's causing you to manifest something that can't happen anyway because let me tell you,
Yeah.
the soulmate or twin flame connection is
Mm.
everlasting. It can't be broken.
Oh.
It cannot be broken. You can separate, you can pull apart, you can take a break, but you can never be separated.
Well, that explains why.
Something like that will you'll just work it through. It'll naturally just work through. I know this from my own experience.
So to make a long story short, my answer to it is I do both.
Yeah. Well, that's human.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for somebody to say that they do feed into some of their fears because it happens naturally and then later you can adjust.
Yeah.
But I happen to think that sometimes I feed into mine too and I don't even realize it sometimes. Okay, Jazz, what do you say?
Yeah. No, same thing. It's easy to say on paper or logically like, oh, it's fear, it's gonna be better, like fear be gone, like it's gonna work itself out. But like emotionally, there's even like a fear of success. You know what I mean? Because fear of success
Mhm.
means that you have fear of change. Things are not gonna be your usual normal, um, you know, how
Yeah.
to do things. You know what I mean? So also like there's also fear of looking stupid or looking silly, and that's something that that I can
Yeah.
over, you know?
And fear of success is what will make somebody take up drinking, right?
Yes, because it's like, oh, I'm too good at this. I need to take a step back. And it's like
Yep.
a lot of people that have ADHD or that procrastinate have that same problem because the whole reason they push it off, it's like, oh, I could everything that takes people 30 days, I'll do it in 2 days. Like I'll be fine because it's that's a whole other topic. But besides that, so with fear, I think I do know that there are some that I still haven't dealt with, like the fear of being stupid or the fear of not being in control.
Uh-huh.
I think that one is still like I'm like, "Yeah, but I mean, how," like, I can still feel myself arguing it, if that makes sense. And, like, I
Yeah.
haven't completely let go of it. Um
So fear and ego went into a bar one night and
Hmm. Hmm.
um,
basically,
right, yeah, so
yeah.
it's a pretty hard question because but the thing that I always like, I love quotes. I don't know why quotes always, like, simplify things for me because it's like, if I'm being called to do something, then it's probably for a reason, right? And all the other things of like, oh, but they probably don't like me. I think the biggest issue that I've been having lately is that after the solar eclipse, like my guides have gotten so crystal clear to where like it's just been so clear now that I don't question it, but I still don't speak it. Like I still don't say like, oh, hey, by the way, your grandma said this, or hey, by the way, like, don't, like, because to me, I'm like, these people are gonna think I'm fucking crazy. They're gonna like, I can't. But that's just again more fear because I'm fearful of being considered crazy or sent to the loony bin or like, you know, other things like that. So I guess it's just a mesh, like fear of physical things, like fear of um, I don't know, of like speaking out in the it's a give and take. It's a give and take right now about fear. That's how I feel right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh no, where'd
Well,
Sophia go?
Oh.
she'll be back
Okay.
if her battery hasn't run out. Um, Freedom from fear comes from the identification of that in us which is not separate forms, it's not stuff, but lies behind all the stuff. The minute we identify with that, we are no longer afraid. So, what you were just describing is all these little things that ego tries to stick in your little head that
Mhm.
are inherently part of something, some type of belief system. We all come into this with some type of belief system. And whatever that belief system is, it helps to define what fear means to us. And oftentimes it's disguised as ego, or it is just plain ego trying to convince you that you should be afraid of something, when in fact that's just a lie. So ego will lie to you to set the stage for the fear to jump in. But to the extent that you can become aware of it, you don't have to feed into it. It's really hard to do. And like for me, I was told I would never be a public speaker, or I would never amount to a leadership role, or I would never be able to communicate a certain way because I had these disabilities. Well, I overcame every single one of them. I became a communications major and I became a
Hmm.
public speaker. So I did the complete opposite. I didn't buy into the lie.
Hmm.
But for
Hmm.
the first part of my young life, I was dead set believing I'll never go to college, or I'll never succeed, or I'll never have a decent job, or because I was buying into that belief system. But luckily, I broke free from it, and I wasn't even spiritually aware at the time. But it built
Don't
within me a strong will to succeed in things and not let fear control me.
don't forget
I had
that
to
belief
over.
system. Belief system is BS.
There's Sophia. Sorry,
Uh,
Sophia.
Yay!
Yeah, belief system is BS. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I got it. That is a good one.
Charles, fear is a trauma response. Whether it happened in the past, it's happening now, or something may happen in the future. Yeah,
Well,
just
Yeah, exactly. Whether now or in the future. That's what I was talking about before. But what I meant by belief system being BS is ultimately a belief system is an ideology, right? And what are ideologies? It could be a religion. It could be, communism or something like that. Well, when you really analyze them, not one ideology has ever benefited humanity. Not one
Yeah.
of them.
No. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
and
now,
I
Sophia, go ahead. Go ahead, Jess.
sorry. So there's this one quote that I wanted to say. It says, "If
Yeah.
you can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending." And that's C.S. Lewis.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you can't change
Can you
the
repeat?
past, but you can change the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Agree. 100%. Thank you for sharing that. That's cool. Well, now we know Sophia doesn't feed into her fears.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I used to.
Okay.
And a lot of it had to do with attachment to the outcome. The poor cognitive skills, the fortune telling, the setting myself up for failure before I even stepped a foot out my door. If you embrace that, it will embrace you. You know, that is my experience with it. But let's see, ye old notebook. Let's see. Um, do I feed into fear? Not anymore. Excessiveness, like we've said before, nostalgia. But for me, I use fear as more as like a Geiger counter, for radiation or
Yeah.
a Richter
Hmm.
Good.
scale, because
Yeah.
you can have a tremor and not physically feel it. So I would say I use when I feel and observe fear in my environment, I try to figure out why is it there? Is there anything I can do about it? Is it just my job to remove myself?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. And then staying in the moment, because I feel a lot of fear that I've navigated is because I'm in the past reliving something that is fixed. It's not in my control. Or I'm in the future. My power's in the breath and the heartbeat. If I would have learned that 20 years ago, but thou shalt not should thyself. And then are we to the
Hmm.
last question yet? Because I bounced in and out a couple times.
No,
As
no. We're
far as
on.
like,
Do
how
you
do we
feed into
cope?
your?
Oh,
I
okay.
was asking them both together because I think they kind of go hand in hand. Do you feed into
Okay,
your
cool.
fears, or do you find a way to cope with them?
Yeah, I've got a little bit on that too, but since I bounced a little bit, sorry about that, guys.
That's okay.
Um,
Okay.
so what I do when it says, the question is how do you cope with your fear? Can you put lessons learned to good use for your expansion and to help others shift their energies? First of all, my persuasion is Um, I just allow and do my best to create a safe space where people can heal themselves because I don't help anybody shift their energy, save creating a safe space for that person to be 100% authentic themselves.
Right.
That's what
Right.
I do. I don't give place to my own fear because for me, fear can be like a weed in a garden, you know? So when I feel it starting to take root, it's my responsibility as someone who's conscious of the ability to address it immediately and as a metaphysician because fear is very low vibrational, whereas courage is in the middle of whatever spectrum, is out there to navigate. But I don't give it a place in my mind and in my heart anymore because it doesn't serve me. I use it as a tool more so than a bearing. Um, and then what I do to cope with fear is I speak the truth and I employ the nine noble virtues, which is part of my active tradition: courage,
Uh huh.
truth, honor, fidelity, discipline, hospitality, self reliance, industriousness, and perseverance. It's not meant to be easy down here. because this is school, and I cope with my fear one day, one situation, one person at a time. And if I can add a coping skill to my playbook that will, one, help myself, but two, help elevate the frequency of this planet, bring it. Bring it. Because we're going to
Yeah.
continue to evolve. Do we want a front seat in that bus or do we want a back seat in that bus? Because where we're vibrating in frequency is what kind of scenery spirit's going to allow us to have. I don't know about you, but I got sick of getting dragged behind the bus. You're going to move forward. That wheel of change will continue to turn whether you're cooperating with it or not. So if you want to be proactive, that's how I cope with
Yep.
any fear. It's calling it what it is and not pretending it's something else.
Right. Right
So,
on.
but
And I think that sometimes people, like in that situation that I had recently, I wasn't trying to pretend that it was something else. I didn't know what it was. So I had to dig a little bit deeper to realize what it was. Now, maybe, just maybe, I have a better chance.
you took
Sometimes I wish I had it.
responsibility. You took
Yeah, I did. I
responsibility.
did.
And a lot of people like Delbor and
Yeah.
I was saying, they're like, I don't like what I'm feeling, so I'm just going to take this pill or, drink this
Yeah.
alcohol or whatever. And if it's prescribed and it's helping you, take your medicine. I get that. But if you're
Mhm.
consuming or allowing something to create comfort when uncomfortability is how you're going to evolve, that's the difference, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and what you say is true about the alcohol because when you sum it all up, alcohol doesn't make you feel good. It actually makes you feel really bad. It only feels good during the
Yeah.
first half an hour, but then everything afterwards is either like a blur, you don't remember it, and the parts that you do remember are just like hell.
Yeah. 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 I like this, Lucky. I choose to drive the bus. Get out of the seat. I'm driving it.
Hmm.
Right on, brother. Right on. um, I think that we are all in this mode. All of us. It's not that there's right or wrong or good or better or bad. We just all have to go through these cycles to realize, and it's a gradual unfolding for some. Some get it right away. Others still haven't gotten it. They still don't know why their clock is ticking, and they're afraid to ask the question why. Or they honestly believe they're just. I honestly believed I was doing my typical thing. I
Hmm.
was just being what I am, my skill set. This is what I do. I've always done it this way. It doesn't mean that there. What was behind it was a fear of. Here's another good one that hides. It masks itself in various ways, and it's not that you're trying to do it deliberately, but it's like a masking. Fear is a mask. Think of all the scary masks that people wear at Halloween. They're trying to frighten you. So fear puts a mask behind on you. And I had this sensation that I would no longer be valued in a certain way. That was a horrible feeling, but I didn't realize I was having it. So I was
See, a lot
expressing it in different ways. But when I analyzed how I was expressing it, I realized it's the fear of not being needed anymore in a certain way, or the fear
mhm.
of losing someone that I don't want to lose. You
See, a
know,
lot of these
it's
irrational
a
fears.
false negative. I mean, it's a
I know, yeah, I know what you mean. But see,
yeah,
a lot of these artificial
yes,
fears that are not endemic to ourselves are actually caused by the media,
uh
right?
huh,
People who
mm-hmm,
don't watch the news um, will report feeling better about themselves, feeling better about interacting with other people because they're not exposed to all that negativity from the news where some atrocious event happens in a city far
yeah,
far away and you
yeah,
extrapolate that to your own city where it didn't happen, right?
yeah,
And where it's statistically unlikely to happen. So,
Yep.
people who don't watch the news have a better outlook on life and have a better mood.
Yeah. Well, thank you all so much. This has been fantastic. We are already over an hour and 23 minutes, maybe more. Um, and Charles, yes, false evidence appearing real. That's the kind of fear I get sometimes, And I
Hmm.
love it that Sophia is saying, step up, take responsibility for it, make it happen, dispel the illusions. Absolutely. So anyway, I just wanted to I think I got to everybody on these questions that Lori had wanted to put out there, and I hope she finds joy in the responses. I'm sure she will. And but I'd like to leave it to some closing remarks before we end. And so, Dalvor, do you have any final thoughts on any of this? Did you get
Well,
anything good out of this tonight?
oh yeah, definitely. I would say don't let your fears be determinants of your personality. Don't let those be defining features of who
Yes,
you are.
right.
Overcome them in some way, or either
Mm-hmm.
that or downplay them. And when they do come about, like I said, they could be precognition. They could be some kind of an intuition about a person, place, or thing. So don't ignore them. But
Right.
if you have like what they call a phobia, well, a lot of these are based in either childhood trauma or past life trauma or things like that. And usually these are harmless, like fear of elevators. I knew somebody like that. Or
Yeah.
one of my friends is afraid of chickens, believe it or not. Yeah. So, yeah, fear of chickens.
I I'm telling you, there's all kinds of phobias,
Yeah, all kinds of phobias. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
or the most common one, agoraphobia, fear of being out in public.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah,
I
that
got
is.
that T-shirt.
yeah.
Listen, I
Ago-
have not a fear, but a healthy respect for walking through a flock of geese. Those suckers will bite your butt.
Really?
I have
Huh.
walked through a flock of them where they're
Mm-hmm.
pinned up in a yard, and I think, oh, cute little geese. And I went in there and they're like, they were goosing me, biting me, nipping at me.
Oh
I was like,
man.
never again will I be caught like that. Okay, Nick, how about you? Any final thoughts?
There's a bunch of
Gotcha.
geese at my work, and I just walk with them on the trail. They've never tried to go at me before. There was one time, but
Mm-hmm.
that was because I was close to their nest, so that was understandable.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to
Ducks
put
are
that in
cool,
there.
man. Ducks are
Ever,
cool. Geese are not cool.
oh yeah, there's a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
ducks too. There was one time I was at the picnic table, and they just all like circled around me. I'm like, oh, they're doing something. But it was, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I never understood the like because everyone tells me like geese will mess you up, and it's never happened to me. I hope it never does. But anyways, my
Yeah,
final
yeah,
thoughts is don't let your emotions control you. That includes
yep,
fear. It's as simple
Mm-hmm.
and cut dry as that. They are there to help you and guide you. You're still captain of the ship. Step up.
right,
It's your ship.
right,
You get to decide if it sinks or not. So
Mm-hmm.
yep. How many cats do you have, Nick?
she used to have 10.
10?
I I don't anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it's not practice for motherhood.
No, no.
Mm-hmm.
If it is, modify your role, sister.
I only have one, but now altogether we have 4. We have 4 now. So that's
Oh,
enough.
they're adorable. They're cute.
What one of her goals is to make them like an animal rescue rehabilitation place.
I have
Oh, cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's like a shelter, an
Shelter?
animal shelter, and then
Yeah.
a cafe where you can go and hang out with animals.
Yeah, you were telling us that in your when we first met you. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
Final thoughts from you, Catwoman?
Yes. So I like to bring up what the thing that I'm taking home with this, because I learned a lot from you guys today. So thank you. The thing that I'm taking home is don't be so attached to the outcomes. Like, have your goal in mind, but know that there's different ways to get to that goal. And it doesn't necessarily have to be X, Y, and Z. Spirit might take you on a better, longer, more enriching path, but you have to be opened to those possibilities. So
Yes.
even if it seems like fearful, or like it brings you fear, always have in mind that everything's working out for the best for you. And as long as you hold on to that belief and that vibration, everything will
Yeah.
work out for the best of you. So that's my main thing. Is even if I do look like a goof, God wanted it for some reason.
Yeah.
Well, you're one of the most beautiful goofs I've ever seen. So, oh, Sophia, any final thought? Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you so much.
This is
Okay.
starting to give me a philosopher high. Everyone's speaking facts.
That's the best kind. I'm a fan. Let's
Yeah.
do it some more. Um, so sticking with the tradition that we've laid out, at least for the last 2 or 3 shows, pulled
Yeah.
Yeo tarot
Oh,
card.
yes, please. Yes, the tarot. I
See,
forgot.
I got your back,
Yes.
girlfriend.
Thank you,
So
honey.
you got it, girl. We've got the Eight of Pentacles. The Eight of Pentacles is all about working, making your own way, relying on the self. Um, but the thing with the Eight of Pentacles I've found is it's all about work, making things happen, not waiting for things to appear. But also in this card in particular, you've got this little kid over here, which in my persuasion is like the joy guide. They're the ones that remind us to be happy, be playful, because that's part of our signature too. And then we've got this blue guide over here, and I would say this is the higher self, which is, like we've said, we're the captain of our own boats, we're the drivers of our own buses. What we put in is what we get out. And my final thoughts, as far as like the Eight of Pentacles, the weather is going to shift, the waves are going to be different. But making sure if we're going to focus on something, like Jasmine said, let it be our highest and best. Don't be attached to the outcome just because it played out that way once upon a time. I mean, granted, statistics are
Yeah.
there for a reason, but staying in your power, in your breath, in your heartbeat, if you feel called to pursue something, honor that. Because I don't know about you guys, I'm not in team regret anymore.
Right.
I'm not
Right.
doing that. I'm not going to be 3 years down the road going, oh, I wish I would have. No, sorry, that can hold my beer. I'm not doing it anymore. That is my choice. That is my boat. That is my oar. That is my heading. And I'm going to enjoy this down here and using fear as a tool and not letting it suffocate you
Right.
or run your show. It's just like the ego. The ego's not bad. It's a
Mm-hmm.
tool. Put it in its place. I don't, there's a couple of derogatory things. I'm trying to clean up my jargon a little bit because I can be a little vulgar. Okay, a lot vulgar from time to time. But the point is, love the people that are in your life. Respect is given, trust is earned, and use fear and ego as tools, as part of, like an accessory, not the primary, is what
Mm-hmm.
my thought is. So, love you guys. I'm glad we had this
Awesome.
conversation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
Well,
You're welcome.
I'll just close it out by saying I jotted it down here in my notes so I wouldn't forget it. I think fear. I choose not to have freedom from fear. I choose to have freedom for how I react and respond to fear, which is basically what
Yeah.
sums up what you all are saying. But I think it's related to the fact that we have the ability, we have a tool, a gift, a treasure with that particular attribute that's innate in every single one of us. And I think we have an opportunity to use it as a nugget of wisdom to help us self-identify what we have done with our template. We came in here with a template. We came in here with a blueprint. We came in here with a plan. We came in here for a purpose. And what fear does periodically is teach us how to go about making an attitude adjustment. I think it keeps us on our path. And I think if we feed into it too much, it can take us off our path. That too is a lesson. But rather than as a darkness, or rather than as a, I mean, how would you know what love is? How would you know what joy is? How would you know what bliss is? How would you know how to fine tune that instrument? How would you know how to have such great pleasures if you didn't first experience fear in some way, shape, or form? So freedom from fear to me means freedom from the reaction to it and the self-mastery of it, so that I can use it, not weaponize it necessarily, but use it as an arsenal in my toolbox of spiritual practices and understandings, so that I can go through those transformations. And it could be every 6 months or so, or it could be weekly, depending on what the heck's going on in my life or in society right now. But the biggest part about it is that in order for this to work to the benefit of your higher purpose, is you have to do the work. There's no shortcuts. Yet you have to be willing to accept responsibility and step up and ask the questions and let your higher self help you. Whatever you connect with, whatever spirit guides. And if you don't connect to spirit guides, at least you connect to your own intuition, your own instincts. So take some quiet time. Sit down with yourself and start saying, why am I feeling this way? Where is this coming from? Could it, ask yourself, could it, would it, should it? You know? And it's through the questioning process and that own self-analysis that you'll come up with an understanding of why you're going through something in a certain way. So anyway, wish you all love. Have great respect for you. We hope to see Lori back soon, and send her lots of love. Will you please? And thank you, Sophia, for stepping up and helping to co-host tonight, and all of you for showing up and just being here and being part of what's going on. Really appreciate it. We love you so much. Take care. Have a wonderful weekend. And if anyone's having any feelings or problems or sickness and in health, we'll just send out a group intent right now for your healing, your speedy recovery, and the best outcome possible for your situation. Bless you all and have a great weekend. Bye
Love
now.
you guys. Later.
Love you. Bye-bye.
Night.
Night.